the traditional consultancy model is based on bums on seats, people solving problems, operating in a chaotic environment to figure out what happened retrospectively, looking backwards. And you're wondering, going, are we still here? Are we still doing this? You know,
I don't think that model has much life left, Ross, if I'm honest. We're in a very agile environment now. I think the QS for some time has been challenged around what does the value proposition look like, right? And I think now, with the building safety and the golden thread, there's no choice but to try and lead, right? Our challenge in our sector is not about really recognizing what has to happen. It's who's going to do it first, right? Who's going to disrupt their own business model first and find a way out. And the bigger firms are suffering. The smaller firms, more nimble, agile, they're running ahead. A lot of them are. Lots of great stuff happening. So how do you kind of standardize that, right? This is where the whole RICS conversation comes. How do we standardize all of those ways of doing things, producing cost reports, talking to clients, giving advice? But digitization to me is the silver bullet. And that's where we need the upskilling. We can't do any of this stuff properly.
No,
without upskilling.
No, and upskilling is key to it for sure. And what I've noticed over the last number of years, the last decade, I would say, is that the growth in demand for quantity surveyors globally has increased, but yet we're not producing more to service that industry in reality. And so, where we look at it is a labor issue. You know, how can we do more with less? Well, the only way you can do more with less is be more efficient. Okay, how can we be more efficient? Well, you need to digitize. Look at your process flow. Look at how you work within that process flow. And if you're still with pen and paper, you know, I always use the analogy of measuring the foundation type A at REBA stage 1, remeasuring the same foundation again at stage 2. I'm going to do it again at stage 3, and sure, just for the fun of it, I'll do it again at stage 4, and I'll do it again during the construction of claims and final account. And I'm doing the same thing repetitive over and over again. Surely we can digitize it, and perhaps hopefully we can automate it.
That's my view. That's my view. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I'm also saying to people, look, even if you think that you can't trust the data coming out of a machine, then that's our value, to validate it, right? That's our value proposition. And I think so many people aren't comfortable in that space. Ross,
it's all new, right?
It's new, right?
So it's easier to reflect back onto the old method of measurements and the traditional takeoff paper and the traditional BOQs, and keep kind of spinning that. But the reality is changing dramatically. What we've noticed in the international market is where quantity surveyors kind of isn't a traditional profession within that industry. Is that people are automating it. The companies are doing it. They're automating. They're automated BOQ, automated tender processes, quantum from models, and they're focusing on quality assurance.
There you go.
As opposed to quantity surveying, quantification, if you like.
I agree.
And so we're saying, if we don't do something as a profession, we will be left behind. We'll be, in some respects, irrelevant. And I'm generalizing, of course, because it's our discipline is multifaceted in reality. It's not just about quantum, but the basis of a lot of what we do is
correct. And I think you make a really good point about the international market. One of the areas I'm really focused on is North America. A couple of reasons why. By spend alone, it's a 12x market on the UK. 12x market on the UK. And they do not have an established cost management profession.
No.
And they hemorrhage money on projects in many ways, right? And they've got this really interesting conversation or relationship between the architect and the engineer. No impartiality on cost, but the client picks up the bill.
Well, that's an open market for those consultants and the contractor.
Correct.
We were doing a couple of projects a few years ago, and I was surprised, but I wasn't surprised. But the amount of trust and leaning the client needed to do on the contractor in order to understand commercials on the project, albeit the contractor being completely contractually biased when advising his or her client on the commercial viability of the project. And you're kind of going,
I know.
There's a conflict of interest here.
I know.
You know, does anybody noticed this, or is this just me? And so I think you just hit a really interesting point. There's a huge market there in the US and North America, and there's a lot of really good small companies out there as well trying to do that, and the large companies are there as well, of course. But it is a huge market for sure.